Hello, I'm Jane Dutton with a wrap of the week's news. Now, we're going to be telling you what to expect when the Springboks take on the Barbarians tomorrow and what our chances are, but first.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
Why was MP Andrew Whitfield fired for insubordination while corrupt politicians stay? That's a question many South Africans, including the DA, are asking.
Now, we're giving the president 48 hours to show us clearly that he is a man of his word and that when he's willing to take action against DA members, he must take concomitant action against members of his own party who are guilty of far more serious things than Deputy Minister Andrew Whitfield could ever be accused of.
It must be made clear that the president shall not yield to threats and ultimatums, especially coming from members of the executive, that he has the prerogative to appoint.
The Democratic Alliance has said it'll reveal on Saturday what its next steps are in its latest spat with President Cyril Ramaphosa. On Thursday, DA leader John Steenhuisen issued Ramaphosa with a 48-hour ultimatum to be consistent in his approach to wrongdoing and fire ministers accused of corruption. The president has said Whitfield blatantly disregarded executive rules by not seeking permission to travel abroad, and there are no reasonable grounds for the DA to issue the president with an ultimatum. Eastern Cape flood survivors may need to wait up to 3 months to be housed. The death toll from the devastating floods remains at 105 as of Friday, with an estimated 20 people still missing. The government has now officially declared the deadly floods a national disaster, opening the door for greater support and funding from the Treasury.
The Eastern Cape is still facing a humanitarian crisis, with just over 100 people dead and many more still yet to be found. The province is grappling with rebuilding and rehousing over 4,700 people who were displaced by the floods, which fell on the province just over 3 weeks ago. With an 800 million rand deficit in terms of just road infrastructure repairs, the government says many of the challenges it faces will not be dealt with immediately. The total cost of repairing and bringing the Eastern Cape, or rather the damaged parts of the province, back to normalcy will cost about 5.1 billion rand. MEC of Kokta in the province, Zolile Williams, held a media briefing today where he outlined some of the challenges that face the province. Meanwhile, many who have been displaced by the recent floods now seek shelters in churches such as this one and many others spread across various districts within Mthatha, the hardest hit city in the province. EWN spoke to some of the displaced residents who had this to say.
I'm afraid of this water. Yes, sir? Afraid. Even houses are still wet, you see. So we think some houses will fall down, you see.
Now, the provincial government has set a 30-day target to rehousing these people and placing them in temporary homes safer inland to avoid a catastrophe of such a magnitude. Will it be achieved is a question that we'll revisit within 30 days. Monki Zikoko.
Expelled ANC member Jacob Zuma says that the party's Secretary-General, Mbalula, sent intimidating text messages to his representative a day before his disciplinary hearing. Zuma has launched a High Court application challenging his expulsion from the ANC, saying that it was procedurally flawed. Zuma was expelled by the ANC last November after it found him guilty of bringing the party into disrepute by associating with a rival political organisation, the MK Party. In his court papers, Zuma said that he wanted to bring in external legal counsel, but he ended up choosing ANC stalwart Tony Yengeni as his representative. The day before the disciplinary hearing, Zuma said that Yengeni received intimidating late-night text messages from Mbalula. A copy of the messages shows that Mbalula asked Yengeni, who does he think he is to destroy the ANC? All the withdrawn SANDF troops have returned home from their peacekeeping mission in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. 233 personnel landed at the Bram Fisher International Airport in the Free State on Wednesday, marking the last of the deployed soldiers returning home from Goma. The return comes after a ceasefire was brokered between the rebel group M23 and DRC's military. At least 3,000 soldiers were deployed to the SAMI DRC mission in the north of Kivu a little over a year ago. Iran's supreme leader has emerged for the first time since the ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says his country has delivered a, quote, hand slap to America's face. He hailed his country's, quote, victory over Israel and vowed never to surrender to the United States. Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, also hailed a, quote, historic victory for Israel. And US President Donald Trump is calling for Netanyahu's ongoing criminal trial to be called off. Trump has described it as a, quote, ridiculous witch hunt. An extraordinary feud between the Zambian government and former President Edgar Lungu has again frustrated the late statesman's family after the Pretoria High Court put the brakes on his funeral. Lungu died 3 weeks ago after receiving treatment at a South African health facility. Plans to repatriate his body back to his home country triggered a running battle between his family and the current administration over burial rights. Mourners were left waiting at the Cathedral of Christ the King in downtown Joburg while some of his family sat through the court proceedings that played out in Pretoria, leaving Lungu's remains in limbo for several hours.
The applicant, which is the Zambian government, intends to repatriate the late president's body to Zambia. The Lungu family is opposed to that. The acting Judge President Ledwaba said to us that the matter must be ventilated before a full court, which will comprise of 3 judges.
A face and hairstyle synonymous with one of the world's most iconic magazines, Anna Wintour. After 37 years, she is stepping down as editor-in-chief of Vogue. On Thursday, Wintour informed staff that the search for a new editorial head at US Vogue will begin. Her first cover, featuring an Israeli model wearing a cross, broke all the magazine's rules and set the tone for her boundary-pushing style. The incoming editor is expected to free Wintour to focus on Vogue's global strategy and her broader leadership role across Condé Nast. And world champion South Africa will tackle the Barbarians in a non-cap exhibition match on Saturday, tomorrow, 28th of June. This is what the road closures are going to look like in Cape Town.
That's all systems go in Cape Town as the Springboks get ready to kick off their 2025 season against the Barbarians. Jesse Kriel will captain the side in place of Sia Kolisi, who misses out with a neck injury. That sees Marco van Staden starting in his place. The conditions might be cold and gloomy, but the Boks will be looking to turn up the heat as they kick off their season. Kieran Thompson, EWN Sport, Cape Town.
And we wish the Springboks the best of luck. Have a good weekend.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.